day 2 of Big 12 Media Days, the final day, and we knew coming into this event that Coach Prime and the Colorado contingency was going to draw a crowd, and it certainly didn't disappoint. If any point today you needed to look around Allegiant Stadium and figure out where Colorado's people were, you just had to look for the big group of people.
Yes, it looked like ants kind of going around carrying a piece of rice or something like that. But yeah, it was crazy. We knew that was going to be the case, and we talked like if there's one team, it's going to be Colorado, and there wasn't really another team that we thought of was going to have that kind of following. And man, it was every time they went somewhere. I don't know how many impromptu press conferences Shilo Sanders did today, where it was like somebody stopped him and did something, just to talk to him, and then all of a sudden there's 5-10 cameras around him. I finally got him one-on-one towards the end of the day, and about halfway through I looked back and there's like 3 other guys like filming my interview with him. It's like great, so you couldn't really get that that one-on-one time very much. And so it's great. I talked to Rick George, who's out here, and I asked him about that. I said, do you like seeing that? And he goes, oh, it's great. He goes, one of the reasons why we hired Coach Prime is to get our brand out there, and to because we knew that he was going to bring us attention, and certainly they were the attention grabbers here.
I think my favorite moment of today is when Shedeur and Shilo teamed up, and we saw them do that during spring ball, and it was hilarious then. And it was funny again today when they both decided to field questions at the same time. I asked Shedeur a question about the offensive line, and by the end of it, Shilo's given a great answer about how that group's changed their mentality. Those two really play off well in that setting.
Yeah, you don't want to always transcribe an interview when it's the two of them, because there's so much banter and back and forth. But it's a lot of fun to see them. They clearly get along, and they give each other crap right back to each other, and it's fun to watch. I mean, I thought the funniest part of that was the toughest question of the day for Shedeur seemed to be what's your cheat meal, and he didn't really have it. That was one of the funniest answers, because he's like, well, what's a cheat meal, and it was just kind of a funny answer. And Shilo's trying to explain to him, look, it's a meal that that you're not supposed to eat, and it was kind of funny, that banter. But I thought we both did videos with Big Dog Chico today, but I told him, I said, one of the differences I saw this year, and I'll ask you if you thought the same thing, was I thought Shilo wasn't at Pac-12 Media Day last year, but Shedeur was. I thought the CU contingent looked a lot more comfortable today than they did last year at Pac-12 Media Day, and I think there's some factors in that, like they didn't know the SID staff that well. Coach Prime wasn't there, but I think that it was bigger than that. I think that they're more comfortable in being Buffs. I think they're more comfortable in their skin at Colorado right now, and I think that I thought that was telling to me how much more comfortable they were. Did you feel like they were more comfortable?
Yeah, they've definitely embraced living in Colorado. And Shilo said living in Colorado is like a vacation every day. Yeah. It's not lip service. Mm-hmm. Colorado is a hidden gem, and there's a reason that a lot of people started moving there. Yeah. And it's kind of cool to see them put Boulder on a big stage. I was talking to a photographer that's based out of Las Vegas today, and he said he went out to Boulder for the first time last year because of Coach Prime, and he was blown away. He's like, I had no idea Boulder and Colorado were that nice. And so that's been cool to see, just the attention that not only Coach Prime brings the football program, but just the whole area in general. And again, it seems very genuine with those guys. But I mean, it's with Coach Prime, it's a lot of the questions that we've heard before, because these are different reporters that haven't been around. You hear a reporter ask Coach Prime about culture, and you're like, here we go, because we know how he responds to some of these things at certain points. But the main takeaway I had from Coach Prime's main press conference was he just started talking about the depth on this football team. He starts with the offensive line, talks about the defensive line. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't have been able to do that a year ago, and that's a big thing I've been talking to other reporters about when they ask me why I'm high on this Colorado team, and it comes down to that depth. There's just so many more guys to talk about that are established guys than a year ago.
Yeah. Well, and to your point on that, I thought it was telling when he was asked, because he was asked, why are you confident this team's going to be better? And he starts off with the offensive line, and then he goes defensive line. I don't think it was a mistake that he started off with those two groups. And actually, when he was done in the back, I was kind of walking with him a second, and I mentioned that to him. I said that felt like it was, there was a point to you saying those two first. He goes, well, that's what we focused on, and basically tell me, yeah, that's why they believe they're better. Is I think it's telling that he started with those two groups, and that was the biggest thing that held this team back last year was the trenches. I think they're much better in the trenches this year, and you just listen to how Coach Prime talks about the offensive line now compared to a year ago, and if you just listen to him, you can tell why they're confident.
And even going beyond that, the familiarity that these guys have, Coach Prime was, hey, make sure you don't sleep on Tajay McCoy.
Yeah.
It was tough for him to do that a year ago. He was still figuring out these players. So his grasp of this football program is quite a bit different now.
Yeah, for sure, because he was asked about that edge group. And he also mentioned Arden Walker. He said, look, Arden Walker's a really good player. And then he mentioned Taj McCoy as well. I think that's going to be a huge deal. If they're deep, 5-6 deep on the edge, and they can get guys that get sacks, then that's such an improvement, because last year's Jordan Dominic and then who, right? And so I think that's a huge deal. And you're right. The depth, I don't know if it's like if they're super deep, but they're deeper than they were last year, and that's a huge deal.
Mark Vassett was also here. We can't forget about him. Great personality and obviously a great punter as well. Yeah. What were your takeaways from your conversations with him?
Yeah, well, I don't know why, but all those Australian guys were just awesome to talk to. And I even talked to Cincinnati's punter yesterday, who's from Australia and knows Mark. And he was actually ticked off that they weren't on the same day. But Mark was saying the same thing. But yeah, they're great to talk to. But for Mark, extremely confident. He wants to be the best punter in the nation, he told me. He said, I want to be the number one guy in the country. And, we were talking a little bit about he was so good at those punts, like landing them inside the 5-yard line or 10-yard line last year. And he was telling me how easy that is for him, relatively easy, because they grew up, like that's how they passed to each other in Australian rules football. You had to punt to each other. So you had to be very accurate where you were landing it. And he's like, yeah, people get excited about it. And like, oh, that's cool. That's just what he's used to doing. But he wants to be more consistent. He wants to be that best punter in the country. And he goes, I'm not going to be punting as much as I did last year. And that's a good thing.
It was great seeing Rick George out here. He got called out by Coach Prime for scheduling North Dakota State in the opener. Generally, it was a good event. Did you have any other big takeaways?
No, yesterday I because Colorado wasn't here, I talked to a lot of players and coaches from other teams, and today I didn't really do that. I just focused on Colorado, and it was just because every time you turn around, they're, like you mentioned earlier, there they are, the Buffs are walking with somebody else, so let's go see what they're doing over there. That was, I guess that's the main takeaway, is just, how much people want to talk to Colorado, and that this team, people still want to watch it, right? And we talk about, 4-8, maybe there's a little bit of shine off of it, but you get here, it's like, no, this is the team people still want to see and that they want to talk about. And I think it'd be a really good thing for the Big 12 if Colorado was good and relevant this year, because that's great for Colorado. I think it'd be good for the Big 12 as well if Colorado is relevant throughout the season. And they don't have to be undefeated, but as long as they're relevant and the team that people want to watch, I think that's a big deal.
No Travis Hunter here today. It sounds like the airplane was scheduled to leave at a certain time, and it left at a certain time. Yep. We had him at Pac-12 Media Day last year. We knew it was not his favorite thing in the world to do, but Shedeur and Shilo and Mark Vassett brought so much to the table. I don't feel like that was even noticed once we got past the initial disappointment that he wasn't here. Yeah,
I don't think so. And, frankly, Travis doesn't like doing it. And, I don't know how he would have been in this setting anyway. And if it's not fun, for, at least in my opinion, for us to do it if you can tell a guy doesn't want to be there, and if he's not comfortable doing it. And but you could tell, I think Shilo and Shedeur really carried it today. I thought they did a great job. And Colorado was the only team with less than 4 players, but you couldn't really tell because the 3 that were here did such a great job.
Yeah. Well, you have a TV interview you have to get ready for. Next time you're going to see us, we'll be back in Colorado when we'll be getting close to camp. Signing off from Las Vegas.